Hi guys, it's Dan from Inclusion Space, and we're going to take a look at the general education teacher's role in inclusion. Um, the general education teacher has a tremendous effect on the attitude of the classroom toward inclusion and toward the successful inclusion of students with special needs in their class. The payoff for successful implementation of the following roles is felt by everyone connected to the class. The general education teacher's role in inclusion include, there's lots of roles. Number one, knowing their roles, knowing his or her roles. If you don't know your role, you can't play it. Or at least you might accidentally play it, but you don't know for sure if you're going to be playing your role. You got to know what the role is, have a conversation with the team about it. It's worth taking that time. The team being the special education teacher, probably somebody from the administration, so that everybody's on the same page of how inclusion is going here. It wouldn't even hurt to have a conversation where there are parents involved, because they're part of the community. Parents should know what's going on, and it opens up that line of communication and respect to have open, collaborative conversations, so that everybody understands that inclusion is a priority. It's the role of the general education teacher to advocate for inclusion in their classroom. It's not just the special ed teacher's role, it is the general ed teacher's role too. If you take ownership as a general ed teacher, you're going to be rewarded. The parents will respect you more. The students will respect you more. There will be more learning in your class, believe it or not, because there's something to learn, from everybody, from having an inclusive community. You will grow as a teacher because you will be exposed to new and new strategies that work for everybody. Your teaching will become more effective for everybody, because effective teaching for an inclusive classroom is effective teaching for a classroom of all students, not just students with individual education programs, IEPs, for all students. Your role is to participate in annual IEP meetings as well, and address inclusion. There needs to be a general ed teacher at every IEP meeting, and there should be. That makes it an inclusive experience. At least it supports inclusion. If there's somebody who can speak to what's going on in the curriculum, what's going on in the teams and team meetings, there needs to be that line of communication that's open, and somebody needs to be an expert on it, and that's your job if you're the general education teacher. Having a working knowledge of the adaptations and accommodations and modifications on the IEPs, all that means is there's a section that shows what the student needs to be successful, how they're going to be adapted, how work's going to be adapted, what little things need to be changed for them, or supported, or supports in place. You need to take the time to kind of figure out what that is. The special ed teacher needs to give you a copy of those, whether they give you the IEP itself, which is a large document, or even just a shorter document with notes on the adaptations. You should have access to that and see what the adaptations are. You need to send communication from the classroom to all students, not just the ones who are in general ed, but send home classroom communications to all students. And if for some reason the kids in special ed aren't there that day, don't forget that they're your students too. Their parents need to get the pamphlets and the calls and whatever it is that goes home. So many times that step's missed, and it really makes it feel non-inclusive. It's just those little things make so much of a difference. Sending home pamphlets, even if it's junk mail pamphlets, send it home. I've gotten parents upset that they didn't receive the what I consider junk mail, but what other parents feel as an inclusive, and it is an inclusive communication. And it's a message. If you're not going to give kids with disabilities, the junk mail or whatever it is that you send home, they're not part of your group. You're communicating that they're not part of your group, and that's it's huge. They need to be part of your group. Um, it's your role as a general education teacher to send communication from the classroom to, or I said that, to all students, to include a section for adapted assignments on your web page. So say you have a web page and your assignments are there. Is there a place where you can put adapted assignments, even if it's, some alternative assignments that make a little disclaimer, you need to talk to me before to get clearance to do these, but they just need something that the parents can access online, because it's non-inclusive if you don't have that. Let's just be real, it's just not inclusive if you don't have that on your website and everything else is on your website. So um, including parents in conferences, open houses, orientation greetings. Yeah, there's too many times when special ed, programs are separate in those kind of scenarios, and notice is not sent home to parents of students with special needs. It's just, there needs to be inclusion. Inclusion branches into those areas too. If it's not there, it's not going to be in your classroom. Let's be real again. It needs to be in all areas of the school day, the communications, the traditions, the orientations, whatever, what have you. It's kind of like it's kind of like inviting a vegan to a wine and cheese tasting event. You need to have something that they can eat. That's a dumb example maybe, but uh, anyway, identifying general education students who may be positive supports for students with disabilities and setting limits to how much support they should give. That can be something that you can work with, since you're going to know your students really well. You're going to know students over many years who are students who you think would be good role models and supports, and and good friends of students who are in special education. Um, Including students with disabilities in class photos and assembly seating areas. Make sure you don't miss that opportunity. You're just gonna feel so bad when you realize that some kid missed their picture being taken with your group. I hope you'll feel bad. Don't let it happen. Be an advocate for all of your students, just like you would the star quarterback. If they're not there that day, everybody notices. You got to notice when somebody is not there from the special ed room just as much as you notice somebody else. Viewing all students as your responsibility. Yes, that's your role. All students, not just the 35, who don't have IEPs, but the 5 also who do have IEPs that are in your class, or maybe the proportion's off. Maybe more like 15 have IEPs. But all students are your responsibility. Yes, other adults also will take ownership of those students, but it's all our responsibility, not his or her. It's our responsibility as teachers. Referring to students with disabilities as our students, respecting the language choice they want, whether that's people first language, individual first language. I made a video about the importance of having the option of whether people want to be people first or disability first, or if they want to reclaim their disability and use that. You need to find out how people would like to be referred to in terms of their disability. Have a conversation with the students, have a conversation with the families if that's more appropriate, but have a conversation. Don't just assume. I've assumed so many times the wrong thing, and I've walked away with my foot in my mouth so many times, and it gets old for everybody. I just find a time that's appropriate and just have a conversation about it. Better that than to put your foot in your mouth and to not even know that you've put your foot in the mouth. That's the worst, when you don't even know that you've put your foot in your mouth. You got a weird taste in your mouth. You're wondering what it is. It's fungus. It's toe fungus. It's been sitting in your mouth all day. Anyway, we'll move on. It's the general education teacher's role to adapt course materials as needed. yes, that's also the special education teacher's role, but it can be your role. And imagine how much more inclusive it would be if it was your role also. Do your best. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if there's adaptations on the individual education programs, make an effort. And when teachers do that, when general education teachers do that, it feels so much more inclusive. Um, the it opens up the door for conversations. It's not this taboo. Oh, we're gonna have to adapt something. No, it's part of the culture that yes, we are okay with making adaptations and including everybody. It doesn't have to be something that the special ed teacher has to come and beg you about. It's something that is, and I've seen general ed teachers do a wonderful job of coming up with opportunities and to adapt even before I've come to them and said, hey, I've got this need to adapt something. Well, they've already made an effort, and we can do it so much more easily and painlessly and inclusively if we do it that way. So taking ownership of adapting course materials. It's the general ed teacher's role to seek out professional development that addresses students with disabilities. Please do that, and I hope that is useful. Hopefully, there's things in the district that would be useful for you. Maybe even have a conversation with a special ed teacher if there's a moment to say, hey, what would be a good professional development opportunity for me to go to that would help me support your students. There's an idea. Have that conversation. Seeking out, as I just said that one, collaborating with special ed teachers and support staff, being collaborative, having a co-teaching, collaborative teaching, conversations with teachers, special ed teachers and general teachers together, working together, making for a best practice situation rather than one teacher sitting in the back doing just kind of watching while the other one does everything. No, that's not making use of everybody's time and expertise, and it's not supporting the students in the best way. Co-teaching, there's strategies for co-teaching. There's like different models for co-teaching, and I've done a video about that. And you can find the 6 or 7 or 5, 6 or 7 different models for how to do co-teaching, and they're not that complicated, but you'll be amazed at how much more efficient it feels when there's 2 adults working in concert with one another, reading each other's minds because we've had conversations in the past about how to do this or how to do that. It's great, and it's more fun, and like I say in other videos, it models adult communication, that students are always watching and they're always learning from you and how you communicate with one another. It's a great opportunity. Discussing the options for co-teaching. Did I talk? Yeah, I just said that. Having high expectations of students with disabilities. Better to have high expectations than low expectations. Don't embarrass yourself by assuming that somebody does not know how to read, for example, and then finding out halfway through the school year when the parent tells you, well, he can read, didn't you know? Oh, I didn't know. Yes, have high expectations, and that can be adjusted accordingly with conversations. If something is too high, then you can adjust it, but if it's too low, that's communicating disrespect, and it needs to be something that you are aware of. Making use of assistive technology in class, in other words, if a student needs a button to press to say something, that it will speak for them, or like an iPad can do that, or a switch, or even a book with pictures that they can point to if they need that to communicate. Make use of that. Find ways to make use of that and rope that in. And even if it's in a moment out of your day, rope that in, use that. Imagine how much more inclusive that's going to be if you do that even once than 0 times. I guarantee that student will remember that moment. And treating students with disabilities with respect, dignity, and patience. I know everybody does that, but it's a reminder that even when your patience is tried, don't just jump to the last resort, which is no. remember, because everybody's paying attention to you, you're the leader of the classroom. So is the special ed teacher if you're doing collaborative. So dignity, respect, patience. Remember the scene in Young Frankenstein when Gene Wilder said that he needed to deal with his frustrations with quiet dignity and grace, and then he comes in, quiet dignity and grace. It's important stuff. So those are the general education teachers' roles and inclusion. Of course, there's other roles that they may have in your building, and maybe some of these aren't your roles depending on the decision that your building makes. But this could be a guideline for you, something to think about, conversations to be had in your building. Come back to this conversation as the year goes on. Come back again. It's important stuff. It makes a big difference in students' lives, and parents are watching you. It makes a big difference in parents and how they talk about the school, how they feel about the school, how they, and then ultimately the quality of the school. It makes a huge difference. It's more fun to work at a school that has this high quality of um, this inclusive philosophy than it is to work in a school where parents feel disrespected, frustrated, like they want to move their kid to a different program. Let's make it work. General ed teachers, thanks for listening. If you have comments on other roles that you think I should add, leave them below. Please like this video if you thought that it was useful. Subscribe to Inclusion Space, that's this YouTube channel, for more content like this, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.